The text arrived at 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday that had already gone to hell. I need to talk. Today. No greeting, no explanation, just that familiar tone of entitlement that had poisoned 3 years of marriage and cost me everything I'd built. My name is Greg Morrison, and I'm what people call a crisis PR consultant with a counterintelligence background. Fancy way of saying I clean up messes for a living and know how to spot lies before they fully form. At 38, I've seen enough corporate scandals and political disasters to recognize when someone's world is about to implode. The irony wasn't lost on me that I'd missed the signs in my own marriage. I stared at Alicia's message while sitting in my downtown Chicago office, rain streaking the windows like tears I'd stopped shedding months ago. Our divorce had been finalized exactly 1 year ago today. The timing of her text wasn't coincidental. Alicia never did anything without calculation. "Today I'm busy," I typed back. "Date night with your sister." The response was immediate. 3 dots appearing and disappearing, then nothing. I could practically hear her sharp intake of breath through the phone. Emily Morrison, formerly Emily Chen, before marrying into our family disaster, had always been the wild card in Alicia's perfectly orchestrated life. My phone buzzed with an incoming call. Emily. "Greg, what the hell did you just tell my sister?" Her voice carried that familiar mix of amusement and concern that had become my lifeline during the divorce proceedings. "The truth," I said, leaning back in my chair. "We are having dinner tonight, aren't we?" "At the new Italian place, yes, but..." "Then it's a date. You're picking me up at 7, we're eating overpriced pasta, and you're going to tell me whatever you've been holding back about your sister's sudden need for urgent conversation?" Emily's silence stretched long enough for me to hear her mental calculations. She'd inherited the same strategic mind as Alicia, but where my ex-wife used it for manipulation, Emily deployed hers for protection, specifically protecting me from her sister's ongoing schemes. "There's something you need to know," she finally said, "but not over the phone. And Greg, wear something nice. If we're going to make Alicia panic, we might as well do it properly." The line went dead, leaving me with more questions than answers. But that's how it had been with the Morrison women from the beginning. Layers of secrets wrapped in designer clothing and family loyalty that shifted like quicksand. I spent the rest of the afternoon reviewing a client's crisis management strategy, but my mind kept wandering to that year of silence from Alicia. After our explosive divorce proceedings, where she'd tried every manipulation in the book to claim assets she'd never earned, she'd vanished into whatever hole entitled people crawl into when their schemes collapse. The divorce had cost me my house, half my savings, and most of my so-called friends. Turns out, when you expose your ex-wife's affair with your former best friend, people choose sides quickly. The fact that I documented everything with the thoroughness of a federal investigation didn't matter to our social circle. They saw a bitter husband who couldn't let go. Only Emily had stood by me, and even that had taken months to develop. Initially, she'd been caught between family loyalty and the overwhelming evidence of her sister's betrayal. But Emily was nothing if not logical, and logic had a way of cutting through Morrison family drama like a scalpel. At 6:30, I straightened my tie and checked my reflection in the office bathroom mirror. The past year had been kind to me physically. Stress and anger had burned away the soft edges of married life, leaving behind something leaner and more focused. My dark hair showed threads of silver now, but my green eyes held a clarity that hadn't been there during the marriage. Emily picked me up in her black BMW, looking stunning in a way that would definitely reach Alicia through the gossip network our divorce had created. Her dark hair was pulled back in an elegant chignon, and her red dress was expensive enough to photograph well if anyone happened to be watching. "You look like you're planning something dangerous," I said, settling into the passenger seat. "I am." She pulled into traffic with the confidence of someone who'd learned to drive in Chicago. "But first, you need to understand what you're walking into." "Start talking." Emily's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Alicia's in trouble, real trouble, the kind that involves federal investigators and offshore bank accounts." My crisis management training kicked in immediately. "How long have you known?" 3 months, maybe longer." She glanced at me, then back at the road. "Remember how she always bragged about her financial advisor, the one who helped her optimize her income from the fitness studio?" I remembered. Marcus Webb had been one of those smooth-talking investment types who specialized in helping small business owners minimize their tax burden. Alicia had met him at some networking event and immediately started restructuring her business finances through his firm. What about him? He wasn't just an advisor. He was running a money laundering operation through local businesses. Alicia's studio was one of his fronts. The pieces started clicking together with the efficiency of a well-oiled machine. She knew? She had to know. The amounts flowing through her accounts were triple her actual revenue. Marcus was using her business to clean money for some very unpleasant people, and she was taking a cut of every transaction. We pulled up to the restaurant, a new place called Benedetto's that had been getting rave reviews. The valet took Emily's keys while I processed this information. My ex-wife, the woman who'd accused me of being boring and financially conservative, had been running a criminal enterprise. "There's more," Emily said as we walked toward the entrance. "The charity." "What charity?" "The Morrison Foundation for Youth Athletics. Alicia started it 6 months after your divorce was finalized, supposedly to help underprivileged kids access sports programs." I stopped walking. "She started a charity?" "A fake charity. It's another layer in Marcus's operation. They're taking dirty money, running it through the foundation as donations, then using it to fund legitimate-looking grants that flow back to their network. It's brilliant, actually. Who's going to question money going to help kids?" The maitre d' seated us at a corner table with perfect sightlines to the entrance. Emily had chosen well. We'd see anyone coming, but more importantly, anyone looking for us would see us together. "How do you know all this?" I asked once we'd ordered wine. Emily reached into her purse and pulled out a small device I recognized immediately. A digital recorder, the kind used by journalists and investigators. "Because I've been documenting everything for the FBI." The wine arrived, giving me a moment to process this revelation. Emily Morrison, Alicia's younger sister and former ally, was a federal informant. "When did this start?" "Remember that family dinner 3 months ago? The one where Alicia kept checking her phone and acting paranoid?" Emily sipped her wine, her eyes scanning the restaurant. "She asked me to help her with something, said she needed someone she could trust to handle some financial transfers. And you said yes. I said yes, but I also started asking questions. The amounts were too large, the sources too vague, so I did some research. My crisis management background had taught me to recognize when a situation was about to explode. This wasn't just about Alicia anymore. This was about a federal investigation that could destroy everyone in its path. "What does she want from me?" I asked. "That's what we're going to find out." Emily's phone buzzed with a text. She glanced at it and smiled. "Right on schedule. Alicia just asked where I am tonight." "And you're going to tell her?" "I'm going to send her a photo." Emily stood up and moved to my side of the table, leaning in close as if we were sharing an intimate moment. Her perfume was different from Alicia's, warmer, less aggressive. She snapped a selfie of us with the restaurant's elegant interior clearly visible in the background. "Perfect," she said, returning to her seat. "That should get her attention." My phone rang within 30 seconds. Alicia's name flashed on the screen. "Answer it," Emily said. "Put it on speaker, but keep the volume low." I accepted the call. "Hello, Alicia." "What the hell are you doing with my sister?" Her voice was tight with barely controlled panic. "Having dinner. Is there a problem?" "You know exactly what the problem is. We need to talk. Tonight." "I told you. I'm busy tonight. If it's urgent, you can speak to my attorney tomorrow." "Greg, please. This isn't about us. This is about—" She stopped herself, probably realizing she was about to say too much over an open line. "About what?" Silence stretched between us. Emily was recording everything on her phone, I noticed. Whatever Alicia said next would become part of the federal record. "I need Emily to come home. Now. There's a family emergency." "What kind of emergency?" Emily spoke up, her voice carrying clearly to the phone. "Emily? Why is Greg? Never mind. Just come home. Both of you. Please?" The desperation in her voice was genuine. Whatever was happening, Alicia was genuinely scared. "We'll be there in an hour," I said. "But Alicia? Whatever this is about, whatever you've gotten yourself into, I'm not your lifeline anymore. I'm just Emily's dinner date." I ended the call and looked across the table at the woman who'd become my unlikely ally in this mess. "Ready for round 2? Emily asked. "Yeah, I've been ready for a year." The drive to Alicia's apartment in Lincoln Park took 45 minutes through Chicago traffic that seemed determined to build suspense. Emily used the time to brief me on the details she'd been gathering for her FBI contact, Agent Jennifer Martinez. "The money laundering operation is bigger than just Marcus Webb," she explained, navigating through the downtown maze. "There's a whole network of small businesses, charities, and investment firms. They're moving millions of dollars through Chicago, and it's all connected to a family operation out of Milwaukee." "Organized crime?" "The kind that wears suits and donates to political campaigns. Marcus handles the financial side, but the real power comes from a man named Vincent Torino. He owns a chain of restaurants and construction companies." I'd heard the name before, probably in connection with some city contracts that had raised eyebrows but never quite crossed the line into scandal. And Alicia got involved how? Marcus recruited her specifically because she was my sister. He knew about our family connections, Dad's law firm, Mom's charity work, the social network we grew up in. Alicia was the perfect front because she looked legitimate. We pulled into the parking garage beneath Alicia's building, a converted warehouse in a trendy part of Lincoln Park. She'd moved here after the divorce, claiming she needed a fresh start. Now I understood she'd needed a place where her business activities wouldn't attract attention from former neighbors. "One more thing," Emily said as we rode the elevator to the 8th floor. "Agent Martinez wants to meet with you tomorrow. She thinks your crisis management background could help them understand how Marcus's network operates." "I'm not a federal witness." "No, but you were married to one of their targets for 3 years. You might have seen things that didn't seem important at the time." The elevator opened onto a hallway that smelled like expensive candles and barely contained panic. Alicia's door was already open, and she stood in the doorway wearing jeans and an oversized sweater that made her look younger and more vulnerable than I'd seen her in years. "Thank God," she said, reaching for Emily. "I've been going crazy." "What's wrong?" Emily allowed herself to be pulled into a hug, but her body language remained guarded. "Come inside, both of you, please." Alicia's apartment was exactly what I'd expected. Minimalist furniture, expensive art, and no personal touches that might reveal anything meaningful about the person who lived there. It looked like a hotel suite occupied by someone who planned to leave at any moment. "Drink?" she asked, moving toward a well-stocked bar cart. "Just tell us what's happening," I said, remaining standing while Emily settled onto the white leather couch. Alicia poured herself 3 fingers of whiskey and drank half of it before turning to face us. Her hands were shaking. "Marcus is dead." The words hit the room like a physical force. Emily's face went pale, while my crisis management training immediately started calculating implications and consequences. "When?" I asked. "They found him this morning, in his car, parked at Navy Pier. They're calling it a suicide, but—" She drank the rest of her whiskey. "It wasn't suicide." "How do you know?" "Because he called me 2 nights ago. He was terrified, said the FBI had been asking questions about the foundation. He was planning to run. Maybe disappear to Costa Rica or somewhere without extradition treaties." Emily was recording everything on her phone, I noticed. Whatever Alicia revealed tonight would be passed along to Agent Martinez within hours. "What did he want from you?" Emily asked. "He wanted me to destroy the records. All of them. The foundation's books, the business accounts, everything that connected him to the money transfers." Alicia refilled her glass with unsteady hands. "I told him I couldn't do that. Too many people had access to the information." "What people?" I pressed. "Vincent's people. They've been watching the operation for months, making sure Marcus didn't get careless. When the FBI started sniffing around, Vincent decided Marcus had become a liability." The pieces of the puzzle were forming a picture that made my stomach turn. My ex-wife hadn't just been running a money laundering scheme. She'd been working for organized crime figures who eliminated problems permanently. "Alicia," Emily said carefully, "what exactly do you need from us?" "I need you to lie for me." The words came out in a rush, as if she'd been holding them back for hours. "Tomorrow, the FBI is going to question everyone connected to Marcus's operation. They're going to ask about the foundation, about my business, about everything." "And you want us to provide you with an alibi?" I asked. "I want you to tell them that I was just a victim, that Marcus manipulated me, that I didn't know what was really happening with the money." She looked directly at me. "You're good at managing crises, Greg. Help me manage this one." The audacity was breathtaking. After everything she'd put me through during the divorce, after destroying our marriage and trying to steal assets she'd never earned, she wanted me to lie to federal investigators to save her from a criminal conspiracy. "No," I said simply. "Greg, please. If I go down for this, it won't just be me. Vincent's people don't leave loose ends. Emily could be in danger just for being my sister." "Is that a threat?" Emily asked, her voice sharp. "It's a reality. These people don't care about family relationships or innocent bystanders. If they think you know too much, you become a problem that needs solving." I looked at Emily, who was still recording everything. Her expression was calm, but I could see the calculation in her eyes. She was thinking like a federal informant now, weighing the value of this conversation against the risks of continuing to gather evidence. "What exactly do you know about Vincent's operation?" I asked. "Everything," Alicia said. "I've been keeping records of my own, insurance in case something like this happened. Bank account numbers, wire transfer details, names of everyone involved. I know how the money flows, where it comes from, where it goes." "And where are these records?" Safe deposit box at First National. Only I have access. Emily and I exchanged a look. This was exactly the kind of information Agent Martinez needed to build a case against the entire network. Alicia, Emily said, what if there was another way? What if you could protect yourself without asking us to lie to federal agents? What do you mean? What if you cooperated with the FBI, gave them everything you have on Vincent's operation in exchange for protection and immunity? The suggestion hit Alicia like a physical blow. She set down her glass and stared at her sister as if seeing her for the first time. You're working with them, she said. You're already working with the FBI. Yes, Emily said simply. And so should you. How long? Alicia's voice was barely a whisper. 3 months, since you asked me to help with those financial transfers. Alicia collapsed into a chair, her face cycling through shock, betrayal, and finally, resignation. They're going to end me. Not if you're in federal custody, I said. Not if you give them enough evidence to destroy Vincent's entire operation. You don't understand. Vincent has people everywhere. Cops, lawyers, judges. Even if I cooperate, even if I give them everything, he'll find a way to reach me. My phone buzzed with a text message. Unknown number. Stop talking and start listening. Look out your window. I showed the message to Emily, who immediately moved to the apartment's floor-to-ceiling windows. The color drained from her face. There's a car parked across the street. 2 men inside, watching the building. Alicia looked at the message and started laughing, a sound that contained no humor whatsoever. Too late. They already know you're here. How? Emily demanded. Because I called Vincent after I texted you today. I told him I was going to ask my family for help managing the situation. Alicia's laughter turned hysterical. I thought he'd approve. I thought he'd want me to keep you close, keep you quiet. But instead, he decided we were all liabilities. I finished. Another text arrived. Come downstairs, all 3 of you, now. Emily was already on her phone, speed dialing what I assumed was Agent Martinez's number. Jennifer, it's Emily. We have a situation. They won't get here in time, Alicia said. Vincent's people are professionals. They'll be gone before the FBI arrives, and we'll be gone with them. I moved to the window and looked down at the street. The car was a black sedan with tinted windows, exactly what you'd expect from people who wanted to project menace without attracting attention. But something about the scene felt wrong. Emily, I said, ask Agent Martinez how long her people have been watching this building. Emily relayed the question and listened to the response. Her expression shifted from fear to confusion. She says they've had surveillance on this location for 6 hours. There's no black sedan on the street. I looked out the window again, focusing on details instead of assumptions. The car was positioned perfectly for us to see it from Alicia's apartment. The 2 figures inside were clearly visible, almost as if they wanted to be noticed. It's a setup, I said. Vincent isn't trying to kidnap us. He's trying to make us panic, make us do something stupid. Like what? Alicia asked. Like run. Like destroy evidence. Like contact people we shouldn't contact. I turned to face my ex-wife. The question is, who is he really trying to flush out? The answer came in the form of Emily's phone ringing, Agent Martinez. Emily, you need to get out of there now. The agent's voice was loud enough for all of us to hear. We just intercepted communications indicating that Vincent knows about your cooperation. This whole situation tonight was designed to get you in the same location as Alicia. Why? Emily asked. Because they're planning to eliminate both of you and make it look like nothing will happen. Alicia ends her sister and ex-brother-in-law, then ends herself out of guilt over her criminal activities. The room fell silent except for the sound of Alicia's sharp breathing. Vincent's plan was elegant in its simplicity. Eliminate the federal informant, the witness, and the potential problem all at once, while creating a narrative that would close the investigation. How long do we have? I asked. FBI tactical team is 3 minutes out. But Greg, you need to know something else. The men in that car aren't Vincent's people. They're ours. The real threat is already in the building. The lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in a second later, casting everything in an eerie red glow that made Alicia's white apartment look like a crime scene, which I realized it was about to become. Fire stairs, I said, my crisis management training taking over. Now. The elevator, Alicia started, is a death trap. Move. Emily grabbed her purse and phone while I checked the apartment's layout. The fire exit was at the end of the hall, but we'd have to pass 3 other apartments to reach it. Any one of them could be hiding Vincent's people. Wait, Emily said, her phone pressed to her ear. Agent Martinez says the building's security system shows 2 men entered through the parking garage 4 minutes ago. They're using the service elevator. Which floor? 6, moving up. We were on 8. That gave us maybe 2 minutes before they reached us. Is there another way out? I asked Alicia. The roof. There's access through the building's mechanical room on the 10th floor. How do we get there? Service stairs at the other end of the building, but we'd have to cross the main hallway. My phone buzzed with another text. We know you're listening, federal agents. Send the girl down alone and the others live. Emily looked at the message and shook her head. They want me specifically. This whole thing was about getting me isolated. Because you're the only one who can testify about the Foundation's operations, I said. Without you, they can claim Alicia was just a naive business owner who got manipulated by Marcus. And without the Foundation connection, they can't link Vincent to the money laundering, Alicia added. Emily's testimony is the key to everything. The sound of footsteps in the hallway made us all freeze. Heavy boots, moving with purpose. They'd reached our floor. Bathroom, I whispered. Now. We crowded into Alicia's master bathroom, a ridiculous space with marble everything and a window that looked out onto the building's courtyard. 8 floors up, but there was a fire escape that serviced the apartments on the east side. Can we reach it? Emily asked, looking out the window. Maybe, if we can get to the apartment next door. Mrs. Patterson, Alicia said. She's in Florida for the winter. The apartment's empty. The sound of splintering wood echoed through the apartment. They'd kicked in the front door. Alicia Morrison, a voice called out. Professional, calm, like someone conducting a business meeting. We know you're here. Come out and we can discuss this like civilized people. Discuss what? Alicia called back before I could stop her. Your future. Vincent is a reasonable man. He understands that people make mistakes when they are under pressure. What kind of mistakes? Emily whispered into her phone, still connected to Agent Martinez. The kind where you've been recording conversations and sharing information with federal agents, the voice replied. But Vincent is willing to overlook that if you're willing to be reasonable. They knew about the recordings, which meant they'd been monitoring Emily's activities for longer than anyone had realized. 1 minute, Agent Martinez's voice came through Emily's phone. Tactical team is in position. The bathroom window opened onto a narrow ledge that ran along the building's exterior. The fire escape was about 15 feet away, but the drop to the courtyard was 8 stories of certain death. I'll go first, I said. Greg, no. Emily grabbed my arm. You're not trained for this. Neither are you, but I've got longer reach and more upper body strength. Before anyone could argue, I climbed out onto the ledge. The wind at this height was stronger than expected, and the narrow concrete surface was slick with moisture. But the building's architecture provided handholds, decorative elements that could support body weight if you knew how to distribute it properly. The fire escape was old but solid. I tested the nearest platform and found it secure. Come on. Emily came next, moving with surprising confidence for someone who'd probably never done anything more dangerous than aggressive parallel parking. Alicia followed, her face pale but determined. We'd just reached the fire escape when the bathroom window exploded outward in a shower of glass and gunfire. Down, I shouted, pulling both women against the building's brick wall. More gunshots echoed from inside the apartment, followed by shouting and the sound of heavy boots on hardwood floors. FBI, drop your weapons. The tactical team had arrived. This way, I said, leading them down the fire escape toward the 7th floor. Mrs. Patterson's apartment had a window that opened onto the same fire escape platform. The window was locked, but Emily produced a multi-tool from her purse that included a glass breaker. FBI training, she explained, shattering the window with professional efficiency. We climbed into an apartment that smelled like mothballs and old furniture. Mrs. Patterson had clearly been gone for months, but the landline still worked. Agent Martinez, Emily said, dialing from memory. We're in apartment 7B. The building is secure? Secure. 2 suspects in custody, no injuries. Where are you exactly? East side, 7th floor, Mrs. Patterson's apartment. Stay put. We're coming to you. I looked out the apartment's front window and saw the hallway filling with FBI agents wearing tactical gear. The crisis was over, but the real work was just beginning. Alicia, I said, you need to make a decision right now. You can stick with your original plan, try to minimize your involvement and hope for the best, or you can do what Emily did and cooperate fully with the investigation. What's the difference? The difference is that Vincent's people just tried to end you. That means he's decided you're a liability regardless of what you know or don't know. Your only protection now is federal custody and a cooperation agreement. Alicia sat down heavily in Mrs. Patterson's floral armchair, looking smaller and more fragile than I'd ever seen her. If I cooperate, if I give them everything, what happens to me? Witness protection, probably, Emily said. New identity, new life, somewhere Vincent can't reach you. And if I don't, Vincent tries again, and next time, the FBI might not be 3 minutes away. The apartment door opened and Agent Martinez entered with 2 other agents. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe early 30s, with the kind of focused intensity that came from working major federal cases. Ms. Morrison, she said to Emily, are you injured? No, but we need to talk, all of us. Agreed. But first, Mrs. Morrison, she turned to Alicia, you're under arrest for money laundering, wire fraud, and conspiracy to commit racketeering. The Miranda rights sounded surreal in Mrs. Patterson's living room, surrounded by doilies and family photos, but Alicia listened to every word with the attention of someone who understood that her life had just changed forever. I want to cooperate, she said when Agent Martinez finished. I want to tell you everything I know about Vincent's operation. That's good to hear, but first you need to understand what cooperation means. It means complete honesty about everything you've done, everyone you've worked with, and every crime you've witnessed or participated in. I understand. It also means wearing a wire when we ask you to, testifying in court when we need you to, and accepting whatever sentence the prosecutor recommends in exchange for your cooperation. Alicia nodded, tears streaming down her face. I just want this to be over. Agent Martinez looked at me. Mr. Morrison, we'd like to speak with you as well. Your ex-wife's activities during your marriage might be relevant to our investigation. I'll help however I can. Good. But right now, we need to get all of you to a secure location. Vincent's organization is larger than we initially realized, and tonight's events suggest they're willing to take significant risks to protect their operation. As we prepared to leave Mrs. Patterson's apartment, my phone buzzed with one final text from the unknown number. This isn't over. I showed the message to Agent Martinez, who forwarded it to her technical team for analysis. Actually, she said, I think it is over. For Vincent, anyway. We've been building this case for 2 years, and tonight gave us everything we needed to move forward with arrests. What do you mean? Vincent's people just attempted to murder a federal informant and 2 witnesses. That's enough for conspiracy charges that will put him away for life, even without the money laundering evidence. We rode the elevator down to the lobby, where more FBI agents were processing the scene. The black sedan was gone, but Agent Martinez explained that it had been their surveillance vehicle all along. We needed Vincent to think his plan was working, she said. The real trap was getting his people to act on federal property in front of federal witnesses. As we walked toward the FBI vehicles waiting outside, Emily took my arm. Thank you, she said, for everything. Thank you for trusting me with the truth. What happens now? Now we testify. We help put these people away, and then we figure out what comes next. Alicia was already in the back of an FBI vehicle, still crying but looking relieved. For the first time in months, she didn't have to pretend to be someone she wasn't. Greg, Agent Martinez said, there's one more thing you should know. The reason Vincent targeted your ex-wife specifically wasn't just because of her business or her family connections. What was it? It was because of you. Your background in crisis management and counterintelligence made you a potential threat to their operation. They recruited Alicia partly to keep tabs on you. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. My marriage hadn't just ended because of Alicia's choices. It had been compromised from the beginning by people who saw me as a threat to their criminal enterprise. How long? I asked. We're not sure yet, but we think Vincent's people have been watching you for at least 2 years, possibly longer. As the FBI convoy pulled away from Alicia's building, I realized that everything I thought I knew about my marriage, my divorce, and my ex-wife's betrayal was about to be rewritten. The real story was just beginning. The FBI field office in downtown Chicago looked exactly like every federal building I'd ever seen. Institutional beige walls, fluorescent lighting, and the kind of furniture that prioritized function over comfort. Agent Martinez led me to a conference room where Emily was already waiting with a stack of documents and a very serious-looking prosecutor. Mr. Morrison, the prosecutor said, standing to shake my hand. I'm Assistant U.S. Attorney Michael Chen. Thank you for coming in. Greg, I corrected, and I'm here to help however I can. Excellent. We have some questions about your marriage to Alicia Morrison, specifically regarding any unusual financial activities you might have observed. For the next 3 hours, I walked them through everything I could remember about Alicia's business operations during our marriage, the sudden increase in revenue from her fitness studio, the new financial advisor who seemed to specialize in complex investment strategies, the charity work that had started small but quickly expanded into major fundraising events. Did you ever question these changes? Agent Martinez asked. Constantly. But Alicia had explanations for everything. New corporate clients for the studio. Marcus Webb's investment strategies were paying off. The charity was gaining recognition in the community. And you believed her? I wanted to believe her. When your wife tells you she's building a successful business, you want to support that, even when the numbers don't quite add up. Emily slid a document across the table. These are the real financial records for Alicia's studio, the ones she kept hidden from you. The numbers were staggering. Over the course of 2 years, nearly $4 million had flowed through Alicia's business accounts. Her actual revenue from fitness classes and personal training was maybe 10% of that amount. Where was the rest coming from? I asked. Vincent's network, Chen replied. Dirty money from drug trafficking, illegal gambling, construction kickbacks. Marcus would deposit it into Alicia's accounts, she'd transfer it to the foundation, and the foundation would issue grants to legitimate-looking businesses that were actually fronts for Vincent's operation. A complete wash cycle, I said. Dirty money goes in, clean money comes out. Exactly. And your ex-wife was taking a percentage of every transaction. I studied the documents, my crisis management training helping me see the bigger picture. This wasn't just about money laundering. This was about creating a network of legitimate businesses that Vincent could use for other purposes, such as information gathering, political influence, social connections. I looked up at Agent Martinez. You said Vincent's people targeted me specifically because of my background. What if they weren't just watching me? What if they were using Alicia to gather intelligence on my clients? The room fell silent as everyone processed this possibility. Your client list, Chen said finally. Corporate executives, politicians, law enforcement officials, anyone who might pose a threat to Vincent's operation or provide useful information. Son of a bitch, I muttered. She was spying on me. Emily reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I'm sorry, Greg. I know this is hard to hear. Actually, it's not. I felt something that might have been relief washing over me. For 3 years, I thought I was losing my mind. I knew something was wrong, but I couldn't prove it. Now I know I was right. Agent Martinez opened another file. There's more. We found communications between Alicia and Marcus discussing specific clients of yours. Names, meeting schedules, personal information that could only have come from someone with access to your office or computer. She had keys to my office, I said, and she knew all my passwords. We think she was copying files and passing information to Marcus, who shared it with Vincent. Your crisis management work made you a valuable intelligence asset. The betrayal was complete and systematic. My marriage hadn't just been a lie, it had been an espionage operation designed to compromise my work and my clients. What do you need from me? I asked. First, we need you to review these communications and confirm what information Alicia would have had access to, Chen said. Second, we need you to help us understand how Vincent might have used that information. And third, Agent Martinez added, we need you to wear a wire. Excuse me? Alicia is cooperating, but Vincent doesn't know that yet. As far as he's concerned, last night's operation failed, and all 3 of you are still potential threats. We want to use that. Emily leaned forward. What kind of operation? Vincent is going to try again, Agent Martinez explained. But this time, he's going to be more subtle. He'll try to approach Greg directly, probably through intermediaries, to gauge what he knows and what he might be planning to do with that information. You want to use me as bait. We want to give Vincent enough rope to hang himself. With your background, you're the perfect person to document his attempts to obstruct justice or intimidate witnesses. I thought about it for a moment. The old Greg Morrison, the one who'd spent 3 years doubting his own instincts, might have hesitated. But that person was gone, replaced by someone who understood that sometimes the only way to win was to fight back. What do I need to do? Go back to your normal routine. Work, social activities, everything exactly as it was before last night. But you'll be wearing recording equipment and we'll have surveillance teams nearby. How long? Probably not long. Vincent's organization is under pressure now. They'll make contact within a few days, or they'll cut their losses and run. Chen slid a business card across the table. My direct number. If anything feels wrong, if you sense any kind of threat, you call immediately. Understood. As we prepared to leave, Emily pulled me aside. Are you sure about this? These people tried to end us last night. That's exactly why I'm sure. Vincent destroyed my marriage, compromised my work, and tried to murder my family. It's time someone fought back. Your family? I realized what I'd said. Your family, Emily. You're the only family I have left. She smiled for the first time since this whole nightmare began. Then let's finish this. The next morning, I returned to my office for the first time since receiving Alicia's text. The FBI had installed recording equipment so sophisticated it was completely invisible, and Agent Martinez assured me that surveillance teams would be monitoring the building around the clock. My assistant, Jennifer Walsh, greeted me with a stack of messages and a concerned expression. "Are you all right? There are rumors about some kind of incident last night." "I'm fine, just some family drama that got out of hand." "The police called this morning. They want to schedule an interview about something related to your ex-wife." "I'll handle it. What else?" 3 new clients called requesting crisis management consultations. All of them mentioned they'd heard about your work through mutual connections. I felt the first stirring of suspicion. "What kind of connections?" "Business associates, social contacts, the usual referral network." "Get me their contact information and any background you can find. And Jennifer, be extra careful about security protocols for the next few weeks. Don't give out any information about my schedule or client meetings without checking with me first. Is there a problem?" "Just being cautious." I spent the morning reviewing the new client requests, using my intelligence background to look for patterns. 2 of the 3 had connections to construction companies that did business with the city. The third owned a chain of restaurants in Milwaukee, Vincent's territory. My phone rang at 11:30. Unknown number. Greg Morrison. "Mr. Morrison, this is Tom Bradley. I'm calling about a crisis management consultation. I understand you have experience with federal investigations." "What kind of federal investigation?" "The kind that can destroy a legitimate businessman's reputation based on the criminal activities of his associates. I think we should meet." "I'm not taking new clients this week." "This isn't about money, Mr. Morrison. This is about mutual interests. You see, I believe we have some common concerns regarding certain federal activities that affect both of our situations." The language was careful, coded, but the message was clear. Vincent's people were making contact. "Where did you get my number?" "From a mutual friend, someone who thought you might be interested in discussing recent events." "What kind of recent events?" "The kind that involve your ex-wife and certain financial irregularities that the FBI seems to find fascinating." I looked at my watch. The surveillance teams were in position, the recording equipment was running, and Vincent's organization was about to make the mistake that would destroy them. "I can meet this afternoon," I said. "My office, 2 p.m. "Actually, I was thinking somewhere more private. There's a coffee shop on Michigan Avenue near the Art Institute. Molto bene. Do you know it?" "I'll find it." "Excellent. And Mr. Morrison, come alone. This conversation requires discretion." The line went dead. I immediately called Agent Martinez. "They took the bait," I said. 2 p.m. at Molto Bene Coffee Shop on Michigan Avenue. "We'll be ready. Remember, let them do most of the talking. Ask questions, but don't volunteer information. And whatever they offer you, don't commit to anything." "Understood." At 1:45, I walked into Molto Ben and immediately spotted my contact. Tom Bradley was exactly what you'd expect from Vincent's organization. Expensive suit, confident demeanor, and the kind of smile that never reached his eyes. He was sitting at a corner table with clear sightlines to all entrances. "Mr. Morrison, thank you for coming." "Mr. Bradley." I sat down across from him, noting the briefcase at his feet and the way he kept checking his phone. "You said this was about mutual interests." "Indeed. You see, Mr. Morrison, certain federal agents have been asking questions about people in your circle, your ex-wife, her business associates, even some of your own clients." "What kind of questions?" "The kind that suggests they're building a case based on incomplete information and false assumptions. The kind that could destroy innocent people's lives." "And you're concerned about innocent people?" Bradley's smile widened. "I'm concerned about justice, Mr. Morrison, and about making sure that good people don't get caught up in federal overreach." "What does this have to do with me?" "Your ex-wife has been talking to federal agents, making claims about people she barely knows, based on information she misunderstood. We think you might be able to help correct some of those misunderstandings." "How?" "By sharing your perspective on Alicia's character and reliability, by helping federal agents understand that she's not a credible witness." The offer was exactly what Agent Martinez had predicted. Vincent's people wanted me to discredit Alicia's testimony, to undermine the case against their organization. "What makes you think I'd be willing to help my ex-wife?" "Because helping her helps you. The federal investigation isn't just about money laundering, Mr. Morrison. It's about intelligence gathering, about people who might have had access to sensitive information through their personal and professional relationships." "Are you suggesting I'm under investigation?" "I'm suggesting that you have an opportunity to clarify your role in recent events before federal agents draw their own conclusions." Bradley reached into his briefcase and pulled out a manila envelope. "There are photographs in here that show you meeting with federal agents, recordings of conversations between you and your ex-wife's sister, documentation that suggests you've been cooperating with an investigation into your own clients. My own clients. The ones who trusted you with sensitive information that somehow found its way into federal hands. The ones who might wonder whether their crisis management consultant was actually managing crises or creating them. The threat was clear. If I didn't cooperate with Vincent's organization, they would destroy my professional reputation by suggesting I was an FBI informant who had betrayed my client's confidences. What exactly are you asking me to do? Testify that Alicia Morrison is an unreliable witness who has a history of lying and manipulation. Explain to federal agents that any information she provided about legitimate businessmen was the product of her own criminal activities and desperate attempts to avoid responsibility. And if I refuse? Then your clients learn that their private information has been shared with federal investigators. Your professional reputation is destroyed, and you spend the rest of your career answering questions about your role in a federal investigation that targeted the very people who trusted you. Bradley slid the envelope across the table. Take some time to think about it, but don't take too much time. Federal cases move quickly, and opportunities for reasonable cooperation don't last forever. He stood up and dropped a $20 bill on the table. I'll be in touch, Mr. Morrison. I hope you make the right choice. After he left, I sat in the coffee shop for another 10 minutes, playing the role of someone who needed time to process what had just happened. The envelope contained exactly what Bradley had promised: photographs, transcripts, and documents that painted me as a federal informant who had betrayed my clients. The materials were sophisticated forgeries, but they would be convincing enough to destroy my career if Vincent's people released them publicly. My phone buzzed with a text from Agent Martinez. How did it go? They just made the biggest mistake of their lives, I replied. Good. Come in for debriefing. We have a lot to discuss. As I walked back to my office, I realized that Vincent's organization had just handed the FBI everything they needed to prove obstruction of justice, witness intimidation, and conspiracy charges. The recording equipment had captured every word of Bradley's threats and offers. More importantly, they'd revealed that Vincent was desperate enough to risk direct contact with potential witnesses. That desperation would be his downfall. The underdog's war was about to become a rout. The FBI field office was buzzing with activity when I arrived for the debriefing. Agent Martinez met me at security with an expression that was equal parts satisfaction and grim determination. That recording is going to put Vincent away for life, she said as we walked toward the elevator. Obstruction of justice, witness intimidation, conspiracy to commit murder. His lawyer is going to need a miracle. What about Bradley? Already in custody. We picked him up 20 minutes after he left the coffee shop. He's looking at 25 to life under federal sentencing guidelines. The elevator opened onto a floor I hadn't seen before, where dozens of agents and analysts were working at computer stations covered with documents, photographs, and organizational charts. The scope of the investigation was much larger than I'd realized. How long have you been building this case? I asked. 3 years. Vincent's organization has been on our radar since 2019, but we couldn't get close enough to gather evidence. Your ex-wife's cooperation changed everything. And Emily's? Emily's work has been invaluable. She documented financial transactions, recorded conversations, and provided intelligence that helped us map Vincent's entire network. We entered a conference room where Emily was waiting with Prosecutor Chen and several other agents I hadn't met. The table was covered with evidence bags, transcripts, and what looked like surveillance photographs. Greg, Emily said, standing to hug me, are you okay? Agent Martinez said they threatened to destroy your career. They tried, but they also gave us everything we needed to destroy theirs. Chen gestured for everyone to sit down. Let's review what we have. Mr. Morrison, your recording this afternoon captured Bradley making specific threats and offering specific inducements for you to provide false testimony. That's textbook obstruction of justice. More than that, Agent Martinez added. Bradley referenced previous surveillance of your activities and mentioned recordings of conversations between you and Emily. That proves Vincent's organization has been conducting illegal surveillance of federal witnesses. What about the forged documents? Even better. Creating false evidence to intimidate witnesses is a separate federal crime. Each document in that envelope represents an additional conspiracy charge. I looked at the organizational chart on the wall, which showed Vincent's network as a complex web of businesses, individuals, and financial relationships. How many people are we talking about? 47 arrests as of this morning, Chen replied, including Vincent himself. We executed coordinated raids at 6 a.m. across 3 states. Vincent's in custody? Federal Detention Center in Milwaukee. No bail, pending trial. His organization is finished. Emily pulled out her phone and showed me a news article. It's already hitting the media. Federal agents dismantle multi-million-dollar money laundering network. They're calling it one of the largest organized crime busts in the Midwest in 20 years. I felt something that might have been closure washing over me. After months of uncertainty and years of manipulation, the people who had destroyed my marriage and threatened my life were finally facing justice. What happens to Alicia? That depends on the level of her cooperation, Chen said. She's already provided substantial assistance, and her testimony will be crucial in prosecuting the leadership of Vincent's organization. But she's still going to prison? Probably, but her sentence will be significantly reduced because of her cooperation, maybe 2 to 3 years instead of 20 to life. And witness protection? If she wants it. Vincent's network is destroyed, but there might still be individual actors who pose a threat. And Agent Martinez opened a file folder. There's something else you need to know. We found evidence that Vincent's people were planning to end you regardless of whether you cooperated. What kind of evidence? Surveillance reports, target assessments, operational plans. They saw you as too dangerous to leave alive, even if you agreed to testify falsely. Because of my intelligence background? Because you're smart enough to figure out how their operation worked and experienced enough to document it properly. They couldn't risk letting you live with that knowledge. The revelation was disturbing, but not surprising. Vincent's organization had operated by eliminating threats permanently. My cooperation or lack thereof had never really mattered. So, what happens now? I asked. Now you go back to your life, Chen said. The immediate threat is over. Vincent and his key associates are in federal custody, and the rest of his network is scattered. What about my clients? The ones who might have been compromised by Alicia's intelligence gathering. We'll need to brief them individually, but our investigation suggests that no classified or privileged information was actually used to harm them. Vincent's people were mostly interested in general business intelligence and social connections. Emily reached across the table and took my hand. It's over, Greg. Really over. Almost over, Agent Martinez corrected. There's still the trial. All of you will need to testify, probably multiple times over the next year. But Vincent's organization is finished? Completely. We seized 43 businesses, froze over $50 million in assets, and arrested everyone with significant knowledge of the operation. Even if Vincent somehow beats the charges, which he won't, he has no organization left to return to. As we prepared to leave the FBI office, Chen pulled me aside. There's one more thing. The Bureau would like to offer you a consulting contract. For what? Crisis management for federal investigations. Your work on this case was exceptional, and we have other organized crime investigations that could benefit from your expertise. I'll think about it. Take your time. But Mr. Morrison, what you did here, the risks you took to help us build this case, that took real courage. Vincent's organization destroyed a lot of lives over the years. You helped make sure they'll never do it again. Outside the federal building, Emily and I walked toward the parking garage in comfortable silence. The late afternoon sun was breaking through the clouds for the first time in days, and Chicago looked almost beautiful. Dinner? Emily asked. Somewhere public and well lit, with no federal agents or organized crime figures? That sounds perfect. There's something I need to tell you, she said as we reached her car. About us. About what happens next. What do you mean? I mean that working together on this case, seeing how you handled everything that Vincent's people threw at you, it changed how I see you, how I see us. I stopped walking. Emily, I know it's complicated. I know there's history with Alicia and family dynamics, and probably a dozen reasons why this is a bad idea. But I also know that you're the strongest, smartest, most decent man I've ever met. What are you saying? I'm saying that when this is all over, when the trials are finished and Vincent's people are in prison, I'd like to see if we can build something together. Something real. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw someone who had risked everything to do the right thing, someone who had stood by me when my world collapsed and helped me fight back when fighting seemed impossible. Emily Morrison, I said, are you asking me out on a real date? I'm asking you to consider the possibility that maybe the best thing to come out of this nightmare is us. In that case, I said, opening the car door for her, dinner is definitely on me. As we drove toward the restaurant, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. For a moment, the old paranoia returned, until I read the message. Mr. Morrison, this is Agent Martinez. Thought you'd want to know. Vincent just fired his lawyer and is requesting a plea bargain. Looks like he wants to cooperate too. The case just got a lot stronger. I showed the text to Emily, who smiled. It really is over. Yeah, I said, watching the Chicago skyline disappear behind us. It really is. But as we pulled into the restaurant parking lot, I realized that ending Vincent's organization was just the beginning. For the first time in years, I had a future that wasn't defined by betrayal and manipulation. I had someone who understood the cost of doing the right thing and was willing to pay it anyway. Most importantly, I had the chance to build something new with someone who had proven that loyalty and courage weren't just words. The house of cards had finally collapsed, but what we built in its place would be much stronger. 6 months later, I was sitting in a federal courthouse in Milwaukee, waiting to testify in the trial of Vincent Torino and 12 of his associates. The prosecution had built an airtight case using the recordings, financial documents, and testimony that Emily Adaro, Alicia, and I had provided. Emily sat beside me in the witness waiting area, looking composed and professional in a navy blue suit. She'd cut her hair shorter since the investigation ended, and the change made her look older, more serious. The woman who had risked everything to bring down a criminal organization deserved to be taken seriously. "Nervous?" she asked. "Not about testifying, about seeing Alicia again." "She's doing well, considering. The federal prison in Minnesota has good programs for white-collar criminals. She'll be out in 18 months if she keeps cooperating." Through the courthouse windows, I could see news vans lined up on the street. The Vincent Torino trial had attracted national attention, partly because of the scope of the money laundering operation and partly because of the dramatic circumstances of his arrest. "Mr. Morrison?" A federal marshal appeared in the doorway. "They're ready for you." The courtroom was packed with reporters, law enforcement officials, and family members of Vincent's victims. The defendant's table held 13 men in orange jumpsuits, including Vincent himself, a surprisingly small man with gray hair and dead eyes who looked more like an accountant than a crime boss. Prosecutor Chen approached the witness stand with the confidence of someone who had spent months preparing for this moment. "Mr. Morrison, please tell the court about your marriage to Alicia Morrison." For the next 2 hours, I walked the jury through the entire story. The gradual changes in Alicia's business operations, the suspicious financial transactions, the intelligence gathering that had compromised my clients, the threats and intimidation that had followed our divorce. "Did you ever suspect that your ex-wife was involved in criminal activities?" "I knew something was wrong, but I couldn't prove it. The amounts of money flowing through her business didn't match her actual revenue, but she had explanations for everything." "What changed your perspective?" "When Emily Morrison contacted me with evidence that Alicia was working with federal investigators. That's when I realized the scope of what we were dealing with." "And you agreed to cooperate with the FBI's investigation?" "Yes. Vincent's organization had destroyed my marriage, compromised my work, and threatened my life. I wanted to see them held accountable." "Even though cooperation put you at personal risk?" "Especially because it put me at personal risk. These people operated by intimidating anyone who might expose them. The only way to stop them was to fight back." The defense attorney's cross-examination was aggressive but ineffective. Vincent's lawyers had no way to challenge the recordings, the financial evidence, or the testimony of dozens of witnesses. Their client had been caught red-handed running a massive criminal enterprise. "Mr. Morrison, isn't it true that you had personal motivations for wanting to see Vincent Torino's organization destroyed?" "Yes. They destroyed my marriage and tried to end me. I'd say that's pretty personal." "And you're now in a romantic relationship with Emily Morrison, your ex-wife's sister?" "Yes." "Doesn't that create a conflict of interest in your testimony?" "No. It creates a shared interest in seeing justice done." After my testimony, Emily took the stand, methodically dismantling Vincent's remaining credibility with recorded conversations, financial records, and proof of his criminal empire's funding. The jury deliberated under 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Vincent Torino received life without parole. His associates got 15 to 30 years. The 3-state money laundering network was dismantled forever. Outside the courthouse, Agent Martinez praised courageous witnesses in a press conference. "Organized crime can't hide behind legitimate fronts. When citizens step forward, we act decisively." Emily and I watched from across the street, ironic shadows of Vincent's old operations around us. "So what now?" she asked. "We build the life we dreamed of, away from all this." In the parking garage, she revealed an FBI job offer in D.C. as a financial crimes analyst. "It depends on you. Would you start over with me there?" I faced her. "Are you asking me to marry you and move to Washington?" "Yes. Yes, to Washington, to a new life, to marrying you." We kissed amid the courthouse chaos. Imperfect, yet perfect. Vincent's appeal failed. He ended in prison years later. We married in D.C. 6 months on, built lives free of the past. Some houses of cards, once collapsed, should never rise again,